right. So, been working on my Dirty Harry machine. I was kind of stress testing it yesterday, playing it and kind of really trying to walk through it and see if there's any issues. I haven't played this thing in a while, a little bit here and there, but not deep enough to really kind of make sure everything's good. I was noticing that the gun was in constant rotation mode, so there's obviously an issue there. And I was getting up to almost beating my high score. Having a really good game for some reason, having not played it in a while. And it reset on me, and then subsequently tried it again, and it ended up resetting again after about 5 minutes of gameplay. It was during multi-ball when the most chaos is kind of going around. Most things are flashing and solenoids are kicking, music's going, all that. So it was having an issue there. So dug into the gun, took this off. The gun chamber was intermittent, so after going into gun test switch test mode, it kind of acted like the switch was at fault. Well, it wasn't that; it was jostling the wires. So I looked under the playfield. There's a male-female Molex connector in there. That kind of made it go in and out, but didn't seem like it was obviously that. So eventually, after wiggling it enough times, it got to the point where it just wouldn't respond anymore. So there had to have been a break somewhere else. So there's actually a heat shrink tube with some wires going to it that actually feeds one to the coil, one set of wires to the coil, and then two sets of wires, dual and dual, to the send and receive optos for the gun chamber. Guys always spooks me out. There we go. So that was intermittent. So after I had to find it, I had to cut the whole heat shrink tube down, and eventually there it was in the middle. One of the switch wires was just snapped clean in half. No frays or anything like that. It just like somebody took a scissors and just cut it. So took care of that. Got the thing redone. Weaved back down through there. Had to do it the easiest way. I had to pop all of the Molex pins out of their housings, and then weave it up back through the body and do what I had to do, and then put the heat shrink tubing on, then slide it back down. I could have desoldered all this stuff up here. Didn't want to go to that hassle, so just had to be done to be able to get that heat shrink tube back on there, because you have to have that, otherwise it's just going to end up in the same state. So that's good there. The game, it had the 5 volts is good, and at some point years and years ago I'd redone the bridge rectifier, and I think I'd replaced cap here. 5 volts was at 5.16, so that was good. Nothing wrong there. By the time it got over here and goes through this diode, it was dropping it down to 4.92, which is still within range. But the problem was I started kind of just stress testing some of these connections, and this guy here was bugging out, this ribbon cable. So I just happened to have ordered ribbon cable set for another game, and it'd been on order and delayed because of the weather and stuff, and it arrived today, so that was nice timing. So I just took the ribbon cable out of this and swapped that. The game that I'm dealing with, I've got a display issue. Some of the digits are wishy-washy on on Funhouse, so I'll just use all the other ribbons on it. I should probably just buy a set for this and redo it. I mean, it's 30 years old at this point. But that fixed that issue. I played the game, really put it through its paces, and all that's good. So I think this thing's pretty good to rock and roll for a while. I've got Honey's LEDs here. This one's running about half dim. They kind of do that. If they start to die, if they don't die entirely, they die a little bit. and so I'm getting that. So that one needs to be replaced. The game itself is in really good health. I've had this thing. There was a time where I had it traded off to a friend, but I ended up getting it back. But I got it about 14 years ago initially, and then a friend had it, and then I ended up getting it back. So since I've gotten it back, it's probably been about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, something like that. But I did go through and tore everything down, LED'd the whole thing, put new posts on it, new targets. I added this drop target. That's one thing that Dirty Harry initially had from the original design. They had that single drop target guarding the warehouse. They pulled it out probably for cost reasons or whatever. Thankfully, the code is still there. The wiring harness for it is still underneath the playfield. And you can buy these mechs brand new from Pinball Life for less than $100, I think. So I did that about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. It kind of required that. Thankfully, there's dimples underneath the playfield, so you know how to line it up. So you get it mounted, you mark out your holes, drill through, and really kind of be very, very diligent about how you're cutting through there. I've seen some other guys do the same mod, and they end up with a really poor result in the end. But this came out really well. You can buy a drop target decal, I forget from where, Planetary or... No, I think I ended up ordering from Australia. Somebody out of Australia. But the drop target adds a different style of gameplay, specifically in the warehouse raid mode. Usually that was kind of a bummer mode, because you would shoot this shot, which is typically open, and you hit the warehouse, it goes up this vuck, drops on the ramp, takes all this time to get over here, and then you're left with trying to reshoot that. Well, it's almost impossible to shoot it from this flipper when it's coming down, so you have to try and get it over to this flipper, or get it slowed down so you can really closely backhand it. Kind of a clunk fest. But with the drop target in there, now you're shooting the drop target, it drops, you get the next item queued up in the warehouse, and the drop target pops back up. So it's kind of a shooting gallery. You're just trying to hit that over and over, and it pops up every time. So it's really fun. It's really tempting to shoot it, whereas before I kind of hated warehouse raid because it just took so long to go through the whole process of the ball coming back to you and get it transferred over. So that's a fun improvement. Otherwise, game's pretty original. Somebody had replaced the slingshot plastics at some point. They usually have an extra set in the goodie bag, and so they had done that, and thankfully they're still in good shape. Everything else is pretty well original. I think I had to buy some of these tombstone targets at one place just because they get destroyed. They just get chipped off and whatnot. This guy here, because of where it's located, the gun kind of hits it a lot, gets some really bad rebounds, and it ends up getting mashed up against this sharp edge here. This one gets snapped all the time on Dirty Harry's. So I ended up, instead of doing this tombstone style that it originally had, I just went to a square rectangle style here and put the decal on it. I also added, there's a little switch bracket, kind of a retainer. I don't know what it was originally intended for. I think it's a Data East kind of invention or product. Ordered that from Pinball Life, and I've got that mounted underneath. What that does is it prevents the switch bracket and the leaves of the switch from bending to the side, because a lot of times this guy gets hit in such a way that it smacks over to one side. So that's on there. It does need a new plastic here. Should probably redo the plastics at some point. But ramps, I think, would be the next upgrade I do to this thing. I did put a color DMD in it years ago. It's the LED version, and I really like that. I'm not too persnickety about the DMDs as long as it's working. I don't really care, but once mine died, it was just time to make that decision, just make the upgrade, so I did that. But Yeah, ramps. I don't know how much ramps cost. Probably $300 for the two of them and whatever's underneath here. But I should probably do that. But I'm glad I got that issue resolved with the resets, because that's a total bummer. This game is one of my favorites. It's the newest, quite literally the newest game I own. I'm more of a 70s and 80s guy, but there's a few DMD games that I would love to own, and this is one of them. I'm glad I got it back, and it's just a theme for me that's classic, integral to growing up in the house that I did. So Harry's going to stay here for as long as he can. They're a fun game if you ever get a chance to play one. It's a little different flavor of gameplay. It's got a mix of a few different things. It's got some flow. It's got some stop and go stuff. Bunch of modes. It's really fun to get through the different awards and things like that. It's got an extra mode with speech that nobody ever talks about, where Clint actually talks you through the shots. He calls it, I think they call it like instructional speech. So if you turn that feature on, then instead of just playing the game normally, he'll actually tell you to shoot certain shots, calls it all out. It does have Midnight Madness or Midnight Rampage in there as well. So if you set the time on the game at midnight, it'll freak out, and he'll actually make a special call out to tell you that something special is going to happen at midnight, and then it goes through its own special multi-ball mode at midnight. So there's just still a good amount of bang for the buck, and there's some good humor in this one too, especially when you go through the warehouse raid mode. It starts off pretty innocuous, just C4 explosives and ammunition and blah 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 blah, but as you start to progress through, the items that you're obtaining just get weirder and weirder and weirder, and intentionally so, just to be funny. There's some references to other franchises. There's a Mortal Kombat reference in there. There's a reference to like Jurassic Park in there. It's pretty silly, but yeah, fun game. I love it. It's a good one.